Hi everyone, it's Lindsay and I'm back today with another Let's Make a Card video. Now this card is for the CDD monthly challenge, so make sure you go over to my blog and check out all the details, if it's still May when you're watching this. So I went ahead and cut a piece of white cardstock with the largest rectangle from the Crazy Stitched Frames die set. Now I've also die cut the medium-sized circle from the Inside Scallop Circles die set from Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo masking paper. Now whenever you die cut this, the inside and the outer frame, they're not symmetrical, so whenever you do die cut them, keep them together, and I've just made little reference points on both the inside and the frame. 1, 2, 3, and 4, just numbered them. And that way when I go to inlay this on the top portion of my card, or my panel here, it goes together very easily and I don't have to fool around with it a lot. Now for my stamping today, I'm going to be using the Floral Wreaths stamp set. This was brand new last month and it is a beautiful, gorgeous stamp set. Now it has these two great wreaths in it, but it also has all of these little extras, I like to call them. And they're just all these little single flowers and leaves and little ferns. And it just is gorgeous. And I didn't want those little extras to go to waste. So that's what I'm going to be using to build up a floral background on my card today. Now I'm using Memento ink here, Tuxedo Black ink, to do all of my stamping because I'll be using my alcohol markers. Whenever you are doing any type of card making, just think about the coloring medium you might want to use before you start stamping, because you want to use a ink that will play nicely with your coloring medium. In this case, I'm using alcohol markers, so that's why I chose my Memento ink. Now I am just stamping these different flowers over and over again to build up this background, but I am really focusing around that frame that I've created and masked off because I want that center. At this point, I wasn't sure where this card was really going, so I wanted to make sure that I had a nice perimeter masked off and that you could really see the definition of this circle if I decided to just go and leave this circle as is and not add anything extra to it. So I went ahead and really stamped really closely around that circle, and then I'm just going to fill in all that area around there. Now there is stitching on this die cut. I just stamped right over that. It gives a nice texture to some of those stamps and I didn't really worry about it. It's just an added texture, an added element to add more interest. I didn't worry about stamping over it or coloring over it at this point. On some cards I do mask off the stitching portion. On this one I wanted to go ahead and just stamp over it and really create the look of a pattern paper that had been die cut. So you can see I'm using all the same stamps here, but I am twisting and turning them as I'm stamping them to get different looks. I'm also playing around with the placement and different stamps before I actually stamp any. I want this very close together, not spaced out at all. So that's why I'm playing with different stamps and their orientation before I actually stamp them down. So I get a nice variation and also really close together stamping. So there's a look at that stamp pattern paper that I've created, and I went ahead and removed that mask. Now you can see I have a nice mask circle here. If I wanted to leave that as is, that would do, but I wanted to add a little bit of color at this point. So I'm using the outer portion of that masking paper that I've die cut, and I just added some painter's tape around that just to give it a nice area where I don't get any distress ink. I'm using some Worn Lipstick distress ink, and I started with a really light hand. So I started out with a really light hand and I wanted a really soft look, but I made it I did not blot off my little ink blending tool at one point, and I got a big blob of ink. You'll see here in just a moment right there. I tried to blend it out, but it didn't work, so I just had to go with a really dark hand to kind of get it all evened out here at this point. And I thought about going in just one corner, but then I just filled in the whole circle and really darkened it up. Now, it ended up being okay. I like the look of it, but I wanted to start out with a really soft hand. But I guess everything happens for a reason. I like the way it turned out better this way. So there you see I've got a nice little mask circle. Now I'm going with the colors from that mood board from the CDD challenge, and I'll leave a link to that down below in the description box so you can go and check it out. All the rules, all the details, the prizes, and what you need to do to actually enter a card of your own. So I'm pulling colors from that mood board to kind of color in all of this background that I've created. So I'm using some teals, I'm using some lime greens, different colors of greens, because there are all different colors of stems and leaves on this card, so I want some variation there. but I'm just pulling different flowers and I'm keeping the same color on the same flowers. So you can see that certain flower that I colored in all with teals. All the same leaves are going to be a lighter green. All of them are going to be a chartreuse green. All of them a darker green, just to make things easier on myself. I also went ahead and pulled a pink that would match that worn lipstick that I used. I'm going to be coloring in the roses. Now there are two different roses and they go sort of opposite directions, but I just went ahead and colored in all of them the same pink color. Now I also pulled out some yellows and some peaches. You can see I'm coloring in those very small roses with the yellow color. I pulled out some oranges and some peaches. The orange I used for the center of the teal flower. The peach I used for that little flower that I have left over. And that's going to give a nice little orangey tint and really pull in that orange color I used on the center of the teal flowers. And then I went ahead and colored in all those orangey flowers with a teal color just to give it a nice little cohesive look. And then I finished up all my little leaves with a few different colors of greens. Now in the center of this, I'm going to be stamping my sentiment. I'm using the Wishful Thoughts sentiment stamp set from Craft and Desert Divas and Versamark ink. I have made sure that that distress ink is good and dry with my heat tool. I went ahead and used my embossing buddy on that before I put on white embossing powder, and then I'll heat set that. You have to make sure that distress ink is dry before you add embossing powder to it. Distress ink is a great ink to emboss with, but embossing over it can get a little tricky. So just make sure it's nice and dry. On a black strip of cardstock, I embossed the Amazing sentiment from that same stamp set, and I just cut that out into a nice little rectangle. Now that frame, I've went ahead and cut out the medium size frame that I used with the masking paper. I've cut that out from white cardstock as well. Used a bit of glossy accents to secure that down around the frame. And then I just popped up that Amazing sentiment with some fun foam and double-sided adhesive to finish off that card. Now to finish this off, I've just put some double-sided adhesive on the back of that panel, and I'm going to adhere that onto an A2 top folding white card base. But that finished off my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if it's still May when you're watching this, be sure to head to that link down below and check out the Craft and Desert Divas monthly challenge. It's really fun to play along with, really simple, and there are some great prizes going on. So I'll leave that link in the description box below, and here are a few pictures of the finished card. On the left side of your screen, you'll see a few different links you can click on. The top will take you to a video that you might enjoy watching next. The bottom left will take you to my blog and the supply list for this card. And the bottom right will actually subscribe you to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and happy crafting!